The federal handcuffs looked surprisingly heavy on Linda Morrison's wrists as Postal Inspector Chen read her the charges. Mail theft, obstruction of federal mail delivery, impersonating a government official. Each charge hit like a gavel strike, and Linda's face went from smug confidence to pure panic in record time. "This is ridiculous," she shrieked, her voice carrying that special frequency reserved for demanding refunds at Target. "I'm the HOA president. I have mail authority." Inspector Chen didn't even blink. "Mum, intercepting federal mail is a felony. Your HOA title doesn't override federal law." I leaned against my mailbox, the same one Linda had been monitoring for 3 weeks, sipping my coffee and watching karma deliver its finest performance. The woman who'd been holding my Social Security check hostage was about to discover that the U.S. Postal Service doesn't negotiate with suburban tyrants. But let me back up and tell you how we got here, because this story begins from months ago, when I made the fatal mistake of being elderly in Linda Morrison's neighborhood. It started the day I moved into Sunset Village, a retirement community where apparently receiving mail was considered a privilege, not a right. I'm 73, recently widowed, and I'd downsized from the family home to a small town house that seemed perfect for my golden years. That illusion lasted exactly 1 week. I was sitting on my porch, enjoying my morning coffee, when Linda Morrison materialized, like a beige-clad nightmare. She was everything you'd expect from someone who'd appointed herself the neighborhood's unofficial male sheriff mid-60s, with silver hair sculpted into a helmet that could probably deflect small projectiles, and a kind of smile that made you instinctively check your pockets. "Hello, neighbor," she chirped, clipboard in hand like a weapon. "I'm Linda Morrison, HOA President and Community Mail Coordinator. We need to discuss your postal situation." I looked up from my coffee. "Postal situation? Your mail delivery setup. I've been monitoring your mailbox, and there are some irregularities that need to be addressed." The woman had been monitoring my mailbox, like I was some kind of postal criminal. "What kind of irregularities?" Linda flipped through her clipboard, with the enthusiasm of someone who'd found her true calling in other people's business. "Well, for starters, you've been receiving mail addressed to your previous residence. That's a federal violation. It's forwarded mail. The post office does that automatically, not without proper HOA approval. They don't. All mail forwarding in Sunset Village requires verification through our Community Mail Coordination Committee." I stared at her. "There's a committee for mail, of course. I chair it personally. We can't have people receiving unauthorized correspondence. It affects the whole community's postal integrity." This woman was talking about postal integrity like it was a matter of national security. I was beginning to understand why the previous owner had moved to Florida so suddenly. The next few weeks were a master class in bureaucratic insanity. Linda had apparently decided that my mailbox was her personal jurisdiction, and she took her duties seriously. She started with inspections, showing up at my mailbox every morning to examine my mail before I could collect it. She'd stand there, with her clipboard, sorting through my letters like she was conducting a federal investigation. "Social Security Administration," she'd announce, holding up my monthly check like evidence. "This needs verification. It's my Social Security check." "Linda, I'll need to see documentation proving your eligibility to receive federal benefits at this address." The woman wanted me to prove I was eligible for my own Social Security. I'd been paying into the system for 50 years, but apparently that wasn't good enough for Linda's Community Mail Coordination Committee. When I refused to provide the documentation, things escalated quickly. Linda started intercepting my mail entirely, claiming she had authority to hold suspicious correspondence pending verification. My Social Security check, suspicious correspondence. My prescription renewals, potentially fraudulent. My birthday card from my grandson, unauthorized personal communication. Linda had essentially appointed herself my personal postal dictator, and she was drunk on the power. The real turning point came when Linda called what she termed an emergency mail security meeting. She sent official notices to every house in Sunset Village, complete with an agenda that listed unauthorized mail recipient as the primary topic. I showed up, curious to see how deep this rabbit hole went. Linda stood at the front of the community center, like she was briefing the Pentagon, a PowerPoint presentation ready to go. The slides were titled, "Protecting Our Community, Postal Security Protocols." "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, clicking to a photo of my mailbox, "we have a situation. This resident has been receiving unauthorized federal correspondence without proper verification." She clicked through slides, showing my mail, actual photos of my social security checks, my bank statements, my personal letters. The woman had been documenting my entire postal life like I was some kind of mail criminal. "I've attempted to work with this individual," Linda continued, "but he refuses to comply with our community mail coordination standards. He claims he has a right to receive his mail without verification." She made air quotes around "right," her voice dripping with disdain. That's when Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, raised her hand. "Linda, you can't just hold people's mail. That's illegal." The room went quiet. Linda's smile flickered like a dying light bulb. "I have full authority as community mail coordinator. All mail in Sunset Village falls under HOA jurisdiction." "Since when?" asks Mr. Rodriguez from the back row. "Since I was elected to oversee community postal integrity. Check the bylaws." But here's the thing about Linda's authority. It was as fictional as her title. There was no community mail coordination committee. There was no such thing as a community mail coordinator. Linda had invented an entire bureaucracy just to justify intercepting people's mail. The final straw came when Linda decided to escalate my case. She started what she called enhanced mail security protocols, essentially holding all my mail at her house for extended verification. My social security check needed federal benefit verification. My medication required pharmaceutical legitimacy confirmation. My utility bills demanded address occupancy proof. The woman had created a one-person postal dictatorship, and I was her primary victim. But Linda's masterpiece was the letter she sent to the Social Security Administration. She actually wrote to them, claiming there was suspicious activity regarding my benefits and requesting that my checks be held pending community verification. That's when she made her fatal mistake. I filed a complaint with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Inspector Chen arrived on a Tuesday morning, just as Linda was conducting her daily mail security inspection at my mailbox. She was standing there with my social security check in her hand, examining it like she was a federal agent. "Ma'am," Chen said, showing his badge, "I'm Inspector Chen with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. I understand you've been intercepting this gentleman's mail." Linda's face lit up like she'd found a kindred spirit. "Yes, finally, someone who understands postal security. I'm Linda Morrison, Community Mail Coordinator. I've been conducting a thorough investigation into unauthorized mail delivery." She handed him my social security check like she was presenting evidence. "This individual has been receiving federal benefits without proper verification. I've been holding his mail pending community approval." Inspector Chen looked at the check, then at Linda, then at me. "Ma'am, who authorized you to intercept federal mail?" "I'm the Community Mail Coordinator. I have full authority over all postal activities in Sunset Village." "And who appointed you to this position?" "I appointed myself. Someone needs to maintain postal integrity." That's when Inspector Chen's expression changed. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for mail theft." But here's the beautiful twist that made everything worth it. While Linda was getting handcuffed, Inspector Chen explained that mail theft is a federal crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison. But Linda's case was special. She'd been systematically intercepting mail for dozens of residents, not just me. It turns out, Linda had been running her community mail coordination committee for over a year, holding checks, bills, and personal correspondence from half the neighborhood. She'd been playing postal dictator with everyone's mail, and nobody had thought to report it to federal authorities. Until now, the investigation revealed that Linda had been keeping a spreadsheet of suspicious mail recipients, complete with photos of people's personal correspondence, and notes about their verification status. She'd created an entire surveillance operation based on completely imaginary authority. Inspector Chen called it one of the most systematic mail theft operations he'd ever seen from a civilian. The best part, the story made the local news. HOA president arrested for mail theft ring was the headline, complete with footage of Linda being led away in handcuffs while clutching her clipboard. They interviewed several neighbors who'd been victims of Linda's mail coordination. Mrs. Patterson had been missing her pension checks for months. Mr. Rodriguez hadn't received his veterans' benefits because Linda deemed them potentially fraudulent. Linda had been terrorizing an entire retirement community with her imaginary postal authority. The federal charges were serious mail theft, obstruction of mail delivery, and impersonating a federal official. Linda tried to claim she was just protecting the community, but federal judges don't care about HOA politics. She got 18 months in federal prison and had to pay restitution to every resident whose mail she'd intercepted. I still live in Sunset Village, and I get my mail every day without any verification or community approval. The new HOA president is a retired teacher named Frank who thinks Linda's mail committee was the dumbest thing he'd ever heard. Sometimes I get joke mail from neighbors. Last week, Mrs. Patterson sent me a postcard that said verified by community mail coordinator in crayon. I framed that one right next to my social security check. The moral of the story: don't mess with federal mail. The Postal Service has been dealing with people like Linda for over 200 years, and they don't negotiate with suburban tyrants. Linda learned that lesson the hard way. I just wish I could have been there when she tried to explain her community mail coordination committee to her cellmate. Some people never learn that playing postal dictator is a federal crime. But hey, at least she got to coordinate something in prison, probably the laundry schedule.